Another strategic AI solution we have developed for the Ethiopian context, and the other as a use guide for the low and middle income countries is the AI for good manufacturing practice and a choice initiative. AI for good manufacturing practice is to augment the prediction, monitoring, and the quality improvement of the good manufacturing practice at the Ethiopian pharmaceutical manufacturing system, where we have partnered with the Chinese manufacturers who have already onboarded their Chinese produced AI solution to augment the key performance indicators of quality manufacturing. We have selected three key antibiotics that are popularly manufactured in Ethiopia and did a data annotation for those antibiotics data that are generated from real-world manufacturers, then that and delivered that data automation and annotation to the AI model to learn and pick specific quality indicators where the manufacturers has to improve in order to be competitive in the global pharmaceutical manufacturing landscape. Now, this is also a promising AI solution that is actually won a champion from the Ethiopian private pharmaceutical manufacturing industry coalition that they are also providing good communication and also will to provide their data to train the AI, because the AI will ultimately be an open source AI they will be using to pick any inaccuracy with regard to the quality of manufacturing in their particular factory. Another solution is Choice, which is a coalition for health, AI, innovation, and ethics that is quite tailored to low and middle income context. That is quite focused to guide the responsible development of AI innovations. Innovations are coming here and there. You have
One more
many.
minute, Dr. Meniahel, just to allow
Okay,
discussion. Thank you.
Okay, you have many open source innovators who are trying to provide innovative AI solutions, but there is a huge gap in terms of guiding the solutions towards ethical and governance aware, data governance aware AI solutions. So Choice is particularly designed to address this overarching gap in terms of AI innovation for health. So yeah, I think I'm done.
Oh, perfect.
My laptop is just
Yeah,
stuck.
no problem. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I think wealth of solutions and information you gave us both. I think for the audience, I'll sort of guide one question, which is, as you can see, these two solutions were inherently built based on a gap seen on healthcare delivery specifically, right? So how can we improve the point of care access, really have accurate diagnostics in clinical practice, but also the main another barrier, which is language, notes, and really paper records, and accelerating that. So these two solutions are very pointed, customized to a certain context, right? So we've seen both of you have discussed that there's obviously some data governance challenges to think about, hallucination, how to reduce that bias from the data that you get while you're piloting, Dr. Meniahel. Like, to what extent are you, thinking of that data and the impacts to be part of a sort of research analysis, right? So it's almost like a new medication or a new vaccine we're trying to test in a specific population. And that's what I was asking both of you, Dr. Toby, as well, is how do we test and make sure this is something that's rigorous, the data that we get and the biases introduced from a new way of getting the data in for learning, is how do we really have a rigorous research integration of this AI solution in research, but also how do we integrate it to clinical training and continuous professional development, right? So how do we make sure, what is it the required competencies that these clinicians or community health workers need to have at the beginning or while they're in service? So pre-service, in service, how do we structure these interventions for scale? So how do we structure these interventions from scale from an education perspective and training? And then how do you reduce that bias and new type of information that you're integrating into your solutions? So if I can start with Toby as a first, and Dr. Minyahel, you can also respond to the first question.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. Thanks, Dr. Minyahel, for your presentation as well. I think there's from a training standpoint, the whole point of having voice AI in clinical care is to reduce the amount of work the clinicians are doing, to actually even reduce the amount of training and effort they have to put in. So if we're designing something that also requires extensive training, again, maybe that's already defeating the point. The whole point of using voice AI is that people are able to just interact naturally. What they're currently doing, they're already currently talking to patients, they're already doing notes in their mind, they're already writing notes. How can we just take that process and help automate? So I don't know the important distinctions to make is between dictation recording and conversation recording, because we support both. With dictation recording, which we do support, once you have seen the patient, then you draft your notes in your mind and then actually dictate it word for word. The other more interesting option that we released this year is just conversation summarization and like clinical notes generation. It's typically called ambient listening, where you just record the conversation between the community health worker and the patients while they're doing their job, or the doctor and patient, they're doing the examination. They're already talking to the patient. So, or you're already in surgery and you are narrating your case. So just that natural thing that's already happening, we want to just record all that. And then we want to draft your clinical notes with that. So hopefully that reduces the need for training, since we're just relying on what you're doing. However, it is true that there needs to be some degree of training, because you need to be more conscious of that there is a recording going on, so that you say things that normally you may not have said, but because you want the system to hear it and write it down for you, you may want to verbalize. So for particularly for surgeons, there's some things that they won't say in surgery, but if you want your notes to be ready by the end of surgery, there some training is needed to do that. Also, just basic things like how to use audio. We've found that some doctors were not mindful of the distance from the microphone. So the microphone can be just far off to the left or even behind them. And so some training is necessary. But I think to the point of this talk, there's a larger need to just make sure that even during like regular medical training, there's exposure to AI, exposure to just digital tools, so that these sorts of things will be easier to accept and adopt.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that. Absolutely. Dr. Minyahel, if I can go to you, a similar question. So what do you see in terms of, critical training? How do we structure those solutions to be scalable within clinical practice, right? So how do you really scale it and make sure all the physicians, the users are confident they can use it? They're, appropriately for clinical decision support and really adopt it and it's scalable. Dr. Minyahel.
Thank you, Maraki, and Toby, for the wonderful reply to the questions. Scalability is a comprehensive idea that requires also a comprehensive approach to put in place. What are the enabling policy ecosystems that we should look into when we plan for scale up? What are the core clinical competencies that the frontline clinical workers have in place? And what are the existing technology enabling infrastructure in the healthcare systems? So a combination of these three key factors determine the scalability. But the nucleus of the scalability is, of course, training, especially AI in clinical practice training. Training for scale up means we need to train both the clinicians and the artificial intelligence solution at a time. Training the clinicians pre-service, in service, and a continuous iterative professional development for clinicians. Developing guidelines, endorsing SOPs, and advocating evidence-based solutions.
Yeah.
And what are the key competencies that the clinicians should have to pick any inconsistency from the artificial intelligence clinical decision support. As it has been said quite frequently here, AI is not a standalone solution. It's a solution supporter, I can say. It just supports a clinical decision support or a clinical decision making for point of care. So if I could share from our in-use practice that we are working on our project, we have a patient safety and monitoring board that has composed of senior cardiologists, critical care specialists, and also general practitioners who are responsible for updating inconsistencies coming from the AI decision support provided. And they provide this report every week. And if there is any patient-related outcome, they report right away to us that a particular patient ID that is diagnosed with a cardiovascular indication suspected of the 10 common cardiovascular indications that we have trained on the AI model and deployed to the clinicians at point of care, they give us that particular inconsistency. For instance, a cardiologist may pick a myocardial ischemia, and the AI solution may say, oh, there is no cardiovascular indication here, and the patient is normal and healthy. So in that case, the cardiologist report, and we give to the AI at the back end update if there is any, for instance, connectivity-related challenge. For instance, if there is power shortage, internet shortage, there will be inconsistency when it comes to AI reading. So if that is not particularly related with the AI, then we retrain the AI with more formal, optimized data. So with that, I can say scaling involves assessment of political economy. What are the political enabling ecosystem? For instance, Ethiopian context, we have the Digital 2030 strategy where the government has set out a clear strategy for including the healthcare system to have a standard data set that is able to train and adapt to the coming artificial intelligence revolution. In that lens, we have done a political economic analysis using a qualitative study, interviewing political and economic decision makers of various levels in the healthcare system and development partners in the healthcare system. Then we did healthcare providers' perception and multi-level adoption determinants. And then we did a facility readiness assessment. These three are the pillars when you plan for scaling and before deploying any piloting AI tool. So we are coming with this evidence. Then we also did a global evidence synthesis on AI-powered electrocardiography interpretation. What are a pool of data that have been published on open source platforms, including reputable journals, indicates about real-world implementation of AI-powered electrocardiography analysis. So a combination of secondary and primary data, we are going to optimize and produce a policy brief along with our AI solution to guide the Ministry of Health of Ethiopia for evidence-informed implementation of AI solution that is ethical, data-aware, context-appropriate, and quite seamlessly feasible to the clinicians of our own healthcare.
Thank you so much, Dr. Minahel. I think I will open back to the public, but thinking really, these solutions. Dr. Minahel gave us the Ethiopia case and how it's important under probably a public-private sort of driven entity. Like I think